Hi, everyone, and welcome to another edition of the P.A.D. Leg Saver Hotline podcast with my amazing co host, Douglas Salisbury, who is the Global P.A.D. Association's P.A.D. Warrior Task Force Chairman. I love these conversations that we have every single week. Make sure if you want to join any of our conversations, don't miss any one of them. We learn so much and we talk about so much in every single one of these that you don't want to miss it. Do like this video and subscribe to our channel. The little bell, the little notification button, just click on it and you are subscribed to our channel and you won't miss any of this great educational content. So excited today because we have a couple of special guests. We have LaNae Combs and we have Marius Haynes from Atlanta, Georgia. Our healing space, is that it? Ourhealingspace.org.
Yes. Mhm.
And I met them at a recent event in Atlanta, Georgia, which was incredible, where Georgia Representative Schofield was spearheading a great event for testing for the most vulnerable communities that don't have access to a lot of testing, blood work, and testing for peripheral artery disease. That is our jam, peripheral artery disease with the Global P.A.D. Association. P.A.D. Leg Saver Hotline, get it? Yes. So, anyway, it's poor circulation in the legs, and a diagnosis of this. It can be pretty tough mentally because you have to deal with the pain, push through the pain in order to grow your natural bypasses. And it's so hard. So we have LaNae and we have Marius here, and they're going to help us through it. They say that you need to process a diagnosis like you process a loss. There is a time of grief, and you have to go through the grieving process. So before LaNae and Marius jump in, hello, Douglas.
Howdy, and
Time I say hi.
another fabulous Wednesday with getting together and sharing and learning to grow and become more the best advocates we can for ourselves in dealing with our disease of PAD. And it is. We think about both the physical and mental aspects of dealing with the disease, and we need to be able to work on both of them because they work together. One affects the other one, and it's vice versa. So that's why we're wonderfully grateful to have these people with y'all two join us tonight for our discussion.
We have a great live studio audience. We're probably going to be joined by more, but right now we have Mike, we have Marina, we have Beth, we have Wanda, and of course our YouTube producer Josh. So everyone who's watching on YouTube, you won't miss a thing because he's going to make sure if you do write in the comments section any comments or any questions you might have, any insight you want to share, he's going to share them with us and we're going to share them with the wider audience as well. But I think we should start things off with LaNae and Marius and just talk about your passion for helping people because this is a new business that you guys have started with ourhealingspace.org, right? Should we start with you, LaNae? I see you nodding.
Oh yeah, sure. Um, I'm a licensed clinical social worker. I've been practicing therapy for over 6 years now. Um, I actually was rerouted into this direction. I always knew I wanted to help people. I just didn't know how exactly. And then I end up getting my master's, and I was going to be in the healthcare field with at the hospitals, a social worker for the hospital. But I was redirected into a behavioral health hospital where I end up loving working with adolescent and children who were struggling with trauma and just really high risk, high acuity. But I just loved it. I loved being there. I loved watching them go through the transitions and growing through all
Mhm.
of the things that they had experienced. So I've that's the area I've stuck in is doing counseling, and I definitely have a huge passion for it because it's a beautiful thing to see somebody mentally adjust and rethink about how they feel about themselves, how they feel about life. It's a beautiful thing. So I love counseling.
And what about you, Marius?
Yes, so I am a licensed associate professional counselor in the state of Georgia, And I too actually started in the bio pre-med major, and it tore me to pieces. I thought that was my
Oh,
jam. It was not. You know, you grow up, I want to be a doctor. And
yeah,
so it took me a while to realize that, you know, I had a different passion. It mostly stemmed from people always wanting to tell me their problems, their business, asking for solutions, trying to find the answers. They always came to me. So, you know, I took a general psych class and I fell in love with it, and I changed my major and everything was smooth sailing from there. I, like LaNae, have also worked in many different sectors of mental health, including private practice, critical stabilization, group homes, um, reintegrating into the community, all different levels of care. And, you know, I definitely have a passion for, you know, getting to the root cause of dysfunction
yeah.
and allowing people to grow and develop out of that into a place of healing.
I I love that. And when you were at the event in Georgia, what were the conversations like there?
With
What
the
type
people
of
who
conversation did they have? You had people that were getting results for their blood work and the P.A.D. testing, and probably a lot of fear and anxiety when it comes to waiting for that diagnosis. I know a lot of our patients end up where they start to have the leg pain. A lot of times their doctors have brushed it off and brushed it off and brushed it off. And finally they get to a point where the one doctor finally figures it out and goes, oh, bing, 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 it might be peripheral artery disease. And so let's go ahead, let's do the testing, the diagnostics, and they do the test. They're waiting and waiting and waiting for the results. And then they get the results and they doctor Google and they find out that from one company that has great search optimization that they're going to be dead in 5 years, which is just not true for most patients with PAD. But they read that, they get even more scared. So I can imagine that being at this event, that there are probably quite a few people that bit of anxiety waiting for their test results and talking to the doctor.
yeah,
And
definitely. Oh,
and
did you want?
to piggyback on that, think about how so I'm 63. I worked two jobs, did all this wonderful stuff. I was going, 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 and then one day I fell in the yard. I can't walk no more. Now my life is completely different than what it looked like. And so, how many of us wake up one day and we're diagnosed with something and it completely changes our lives, our family dynamics, the friendship dynamics, everything changes in a heartbeat with three letters, P.A.D.
Yeah, and I mean, it kind of goes back to what Kim said in the beginning, what we kind of discussed at breakfast when we met. Just that not only the shock of it, but like you just said, Doug, the reflection of all the things in your life that you aren't able to show up in the way that you used to. And that's where the grief part comes in, where, you're looking at all of these things that, your normal is not your normal anymore. It's a new normal. And thinking about, okay, how am I going to live in this way when I've done so many things in so many different ways in this healthy body that I thought I had, that now it's
Yeah.
changed. So being able to process, it's a lot. It's a lot of feelings at one time. There's disappointment, there's anger, there's frustration, there's sadness, there's regret, of the things that maybe I wish I had it done before I found this out, or before these things happened to me. And then, once we kind of get through, we go through that point of shock and this emotional kind of tornado of things that happen to us, then we start to grieve the things that we had, or the way we used to operate in those things. And that's a process. It takes time. And allowing ourselves to be in the communities and have the support, because it's a life-changing thing. And getting to a point to even accept that is hard. That's the hardest part, to like say, like, all right, this is what I have and this is what it is. That is really most times the hardest part.
Yeah. Marius?
Um, I agree. And then there's also a level of trauma that comes with it that, a lot of people don't anticipate, along with the grief, which has different stages in and of itself that aren't linear. They can bounce around. You can be in denial. You can have acceptance. You can have anger. You can have all these different stages of grief that kind of pop out in random times. But in addition to that is a level of trauma where, now my life has abruptly changed, not just a gradual change or a gradual decline into dysfunction or a lack of ability to do your daily living activities, but now it's with the snap of a finger. And that abrupt change can really mess with the psyche because it stops everything dead in its tracks, and the way that you would normally operate doesn't exist anymore. So now you're forced with trying to find new routines. You're forced with trying to find the right support. You're hoping that people understand. You're hoping that people have patience. You're hoping that you have the right team in place, and that can really be traumatic as
I
well.
think, yeah, that nails a lot of it, because learning how to live today with how different my life looks on a daily basis and how much it changes on a daily basis, and being living through the fear, living through the, am I going to make it? Well, how do I do this? How do I do that? And that's why I think what y'all bring is so amazing, is in helping people. Give me tools to use to live today and keep moving forward, instead of being stuck in that past of life is over with. Here I am.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
I love the getting, because it is easy to get stuck, because the getting stuck is not accepting where you are. Um and that, like I said, that's the hardest part, because accepting it means that this is my reality. And once we have seeing that this is what it means to have this as our reality, we don't want to believe that. It's hard to say, like, all right, this, I'm not going to be able to interact in the way, or so it's a thing in therapy that we call radical acceptance, where it's, I don't want to, but I will. I don't like this, but I'll do it. Getting to that point to say those two things can exist at the same time. I don't have to like this being my reality, but I'll accept it. That's the first part, and figuring out how to navigate through all the things and all the changes that happen in our lives when we do have big medical diagnosis that changes everything.
Does it make a difference whether you like it or not, as long as you accept it?
I would say no. I mean, because you
Well,
don't. Oh, go ahead, Marius.
no, no, go ahead.
Oh
That's what I was
yeah.
going to say.
Okay. Yeah, I would say no. I mean, because um I'll just use an analogy. If I don't like going to school, but I go because I know I have to, then, and I get the education and I do the things, then it doesn't matter if
Still
I
learn
like
something.
going. Right, right. It doesn't matter if I like doing. It's the fact, if I'm am I going to accept it to the point that I'm able to show up for myself in the way that I need, whether I like that this is my reality or not.
But is there a part of it that you have to still, okay, you don't have to like it, as long as you accept it, but you still need to find happy anyway. How can you find joy in this moment? You might not like the fact that you do have to go. You might not like the fact that you do have it, but how can you find joy anyway? How can you find happy anyway along the way?
I'd say, like LaNae said, radical acceptance is only the first piece. And it's one of those pieces that's non-emotional. It can't really have emotion attached to it because that comes later. Radical acceptance is taking the moment to say, you know what, this is the reality. This is what's happening. This is where I am. Because a lot of people are in denial of what's happening around them because it's more comfortable to be. So radical
Mhm.
acceptance gives you a little bit more power over the situation by eliminating the delusion that it's not happening. And it gives you a chance to get in the driver's seat. And then after that, now we go into, identifying the behaviors that are causing dysfunction, whether it's not being able to get out of bed, not, taking a bath or not eating. And then we start to identify, how those behaviors are affecting your life. That's psychoeducation. And then we talk through the feelings piece where, you know, we allow the talk processing feature of therapy, the motivational interviewing, you know, asking those open questions to get a feel of how you feel, not only for us, but for you as well. Because a lot of times when you are able to say how you feel out loud in a safe space, it also gives you power. So now we have the radical acceptance, we're getting the psychoeducation, learning more about how these different things affect mental health. And now we're getting into the talk therapy piece, which is me needing the validation, needing to feel heard, needing the understanding. And that's how the therapist can help, you know, fill those different holes. And it comes together to form what we call treatment or counseling, you know, overall. It's many different pieces that come together to create the success that you want.
Curious, is part of the denial before acceptance, is part of that denial the point where you continue to do the things that are contributing to the problem? For example, with PAD, and I don't mean to be disrespectful here to anyone, but I'm curious because I think it's helpful to know. Um, is part of that denial continuing to eat the things you shouldn't, continuing to remain sedentary, continuing to smoke, not taking your medication as prescribed for an autoimmune condition? Is that all stuff that still you recognize that you have not accepted where you're at by continuing with all of those things that are contributing to it?
Mhm. Yeah, I do believe that that's part of it. And what's even crazier about it is that that's part of grief too. When Marius said earlier, you know, the 5 stages of grief, one of those stages is denial. You know, I don't want to accept this, so I'm going to continue to operate in the same way as if it doesn't exist. And what you're explaining is that piece, the denial piece. Like, this isn't real. This is not my life. My life is how it was. I'm going to continue to live that way. And then subsequently you end up, you know, harming yourself more, you know, because now you haven't allowed yourself the space to accept the reality, even though you don't like it. So you can start to do the things that help you get to a better place. And like Maria said, you know, radical acceptance is the first part of being able to get to a solution. What can I do now?
We hear a lot is, I can't do this now. I can't do that now. I can't walk to the mailbox. I can't play with my kids. I can't play with the grandkids. And that is, I mean, trying to explain to somebody, well, if you can't walk to the mailbox, walk to the end of the driveway, walk to the end of the trailer, do something, because it is so easy to be where we were and to sit on the couch now and feel that negativity and the depression of not being who I was or who I think I should be at this age or at this present.
Mhm. Yeah, definitely. And I think that boils down to reframing, you know, instead of looking at what I can't do, what can I do? You know, and then you're saying, I'm trying to remember, I'm sorry, I got a lost of thought. But yeah, looking at what I can do, you know, instead of listing all the negative things, because I know especially I think you said, Doug, earlier about how everything connects. You know, it's the same with therapy, looking at, you know, what we're thinking, which influences what we feel, which influences what we do. That's cognitive behavioral therapy. So if you're telling yourself, I can't, then that's going to make you feel depressed. That's going to make you feel sad. That's going to make you feel upset or insecure or all of these things. And so if we reframe it to, I'm sorry, can you guys hear me still?
We can hear
So
you. You're
Yes.
great.
Okay, yeah. If we frame it to and start looking at the things that, oh, because you're thinking that way, then you're going to do the things that aren't helpful. But if we start to say, well, what can I do? Well, I can walk this far, and well, I can do this, and well, I can do that, then that's going to make you feel hopeful, and that's going to put you in a position to start to do things to make change.
I'm sure both of you heard the phrase, you keep doing the same thing, what are you going to keep getting?
The
Same results.
same results.
And until we
Yeah,
do something different, we end up with the same
absolutely.
product.
Right.
Yeah, I'm curious
Exactly.
from the live studio audience, Mike and Marina and Marie and Beth and Wanda. If you want to chime in at any point, please feel free. This is a really fascinating, very helpful conversation. If you want to steer it more towards your situation and what you're experiencing, please just go ahead and jump in. I'm used to being in press conferences, so I can just fire, fire, fire. So cut me off. So with with that being said, just go ahead at any point. But
Marina.
Yeah, I'll say so. I think one thing that's difficult for me is because I know I have to do this. I know I have to walk, but I also know I'm going to have pain, and I won't have pain if I just sit on my sofa, and I don't want to have pain. That's all there is to
yeah,
it. I don't want that pain. So that's very difficult for me to, keep going, knowing that this is going to hurt.
yep,
So how
that
do I
is the
get
number
around
one thing
that?
we hear.
Where do I tell
Yeah,
my client?
that's we hear that all the time. That is the number one thing because with P.A.D. you get that claudication and it sucks. It's like the worst Charlie horse you'd ever experience in trying to walk with a tourniquet around your leg.
Yeah, those types of situations can always be difficult. And, I think part of the radical acceptance is identifying that, what, this is too much for me. Having the moments when you feel, what, I feel like I can give it a little bit today. I feel like I can get up today and take a little quick walk. Right. Use that energy to actually, do what you can. But on the days where you really don't feel like it, it's okay to say, I can't do this today. However, I can do it or I can try tomorrow. If you do use the word can't, allow it to be temporary, because if it's permanent, then it really, disables you indefinitely because it creates the reality. So if you're able to say, what, I can't do it right now, or I don't feel like doing it right now, but I'm going to give it a try, tomorrow or the next day or whenever I feel the urge to just jump up. And also, with PAD, if I can ask, do you all have any other alternative treatments that come with the medical treatment that you give, as far as like massages or any type of physical therapy to help with anything?
There is a wide variety of nothing other than
Mm,
Like he
what
speaks truth.
we're told to walk, walk, walk. We're
mm.
told to stop smoking, change our eating habits, and walk through that pain. And swimming's okay, biking's okay, but it's not the best. It's walk, walk, walk. And we get different, like the food type, and blueberries are good, but no, they're not. So there's such a variety
Lifting.
of options out there, or techniques, and where do you go? Do you go with this, bypasses? How many of us in here also have other diseases that go along with our PAD that add on top of that?
Yep.
I had open heart surgery going through my PAD stage, and what I asked a question in the group a while back. Amputation is the number one. So I wanted to ask y'all what y'all thought about. Fear is a lot of what stops us. Fear of change. And how does that play a role in how we get up and walk when we don't want to walk?
Mhm. Yeah. Oh,
I
go
think
ahead, Mike.
fear is, it's one of those things that's kind of part of the process of going through, a chronic disease or an illness that scares you. It's okay to be afraid, of the reality of the diagnosis. Those are steps in the chain. The fear can be part of it, as long as you're able to say, what, if I want to create, a better morale of life, how can I change the way that I'm thinking about this? And then you start to challenge it. It doesn't happen overnight. It starts with challenging those thought patterns, those ruminating, worried, fearful thoughts, the anxiety, because anxiety is one of those things. It's based in fear. it's based in worry, and it also causes other physical manifestations. And it presents and it can look like as severe as a heart attack, you know. And if you already have other medical diagnosis and you add the anxiety and the fear of what's going on with everything culminated, then now you're creating even more, you know, possible medical diagnosis. So identifying where that fear is and being able to challenge it slowly, you know, that gives you a leg up on it controlling you. But you have to be patient with yourself. I think there's a piece of this because especially this diagnosis, it comes on so suddenly. It's like one day you don't know anything about it, and then the next day you have it, and you find out through these crises, you know, that changes so quickly, but your response to it and how you heal through it is not as quick. It takes time and it takes patience, and it's really, really difficult. We like to make sure that we're being realist in the sense that we validate that it does suck. You know, I think counselors, a lot of times you expect them to say, you know, oh, everything is great. It's going to be butterflies and rainbows. And no, 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 no.
Nope.
It
I
sucks,
thought
you
I
know, and
thought
it's
y'all
okay
would
to say that.
I thought y'all would come on with the magic fairy wand and just start sprinkling things around, and we would all be
Where's the
cured.
magic fairy dust?
Yeah.
We'd love to,
If we
if
could, we
only that were
would.
real life.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
No,
So, oh, go ahead. I'm sorry.
So, any questions out there? And
Oh,
so,
well, I
no,
think going back
Mike,
to
Mike.
I think going back though to Marina before we move on, I
Okay.
think that it's still, I don't think that we've answered her question in terms of being able to push through, you know, with that fear. How do you get motivated to go ahead and walk when you know that you're going to get this wretched pain? And I like your idea of reframing it because um that pain is actually, so we use actually, you know, for those of faith, we use the prayer walk type of idea, and you got to thank God for the pain, because the pain is literally what is triggering your body to say, whoa, wait a minute, we need to build some side roads here, we need to create those collateral vessels. And the only way your body starts to do it is with the pain. So you got to, you know, just as you're doing a bicep curl and you're on your third set with that trainer standing by kicking your butt, and you get to number 12 of 15 on the final set, and you're like, I can't do it anymore, I can't do it, I can't do it, and they're like, just give me one more, and you're like, no, the pain and your veins are bulging and all that jazz, and it's just burning, and you just give it that one more, and your trainer says, no pain, no gain. And so I tell people to reframe that pain to, you know, make it as if they're in a gym and working out, and treat it like they're working with a trainer, and just give me one more step, just push it as if you're doing that bodybuilding, the weightlifting in the gym.
Yeah, and that kind of makes me think about something that we call SMART goals in therapy, which is specific, measurable, attainable, realistic, and a time frame. And sometimes when we have these goals, like we want to get out and walk, we want to walk, or we think we're going to walk, or we have an idea of walking a really far distance, but that's not always realistic. You know, maybe it's you do X amount of steps this week and X amount of steps this week, or I did 1,000 steps last week. I want to do 1,500, you know, something that makes sense for you in your life, but you're slowly doing a little bit more each time. It doesn't have to be, you know, a big grandiose thing. I think sometimes we are looking for the $1 million thing, but the 5 cent thing matters too to get to that point. So, you know, making small goals for yourself, you know, throughout the week, and your best is going to look different every day, and that's okay. You know, even if you did 100 steps this day and then the next day you only did 5, that's okay. You know, we can do, so we don't have to do the same level of our maximum each day. It can look like it goes up and down, you know. So if we find ways to give ourselves grace in those moments where we're not as consistent, you know, it'll help us navigate better in the times when we do have the energy or feel better enough to do the things, if that makes sense.
And
Yeah.
we do that in the smoking groups. We set a date, and this week you're gonna just say smoke 7 cigarettes, and then you work on 5, 6, then you do 5, because some people just can't magically quit. It
Right.
takes time. So we work on that with our smoking cessation group also.
Mhm. Yeah.
And Mike, what about you? You had some thoughts you wanted to share, and I cut you off. I'm so sorry.
No, it's all right. Don't worry. Thanks, guys, for being here as well, by the way. It's nice to meet you. I just wanted to it's not a question. I just wanted to go a little bit into my little bit of a story. I was diagnosed in February with P.A.D, and it literally turned my world upside down. Like my mum's a P.A.D patient as well, and she's an amputee. So I already kind of had a little bit of knowledge on that. But it still sent me into this spiral where I didn't want to do anything for weeks and weeks. I was still getting up and doing my walking in the morning, but because I knew that I had to, and I was walking through the pain and stuff, but then I was just lying on the couch all day, every day, wasn't moving, just become sedentary again, really. But then joining these groups and meeting Doug and meeting Beth and meeting Marie and Wanda and other people in the group and meeting Kym, especially Kym, um, I actually went through grief in 2020. I lost my husband at the beginning of the pandemic. So I kind of knew that when I was lying here after being diagnosed with PAD, I kind of knew that I needed to bring myself out of that. So every day I was taking Douglas's advice. I was putting one step in front of the other, one step in front of the other. And now 6 months on, I'm a completely different person from what I was in February when I was diagnosed. I just wanted to tell you a little bit about my background, and again, thank you for joining us tonight. It's great listening to you both. So
Oh, thank you so much for sharing that
Thank you
with
for
us. And
sharing that.
that's amazing. It's amazing. It's really like you said, you had a moment where you were like, I don't like that this is my reality, but I know that in order for me to get out of this place, I have to accept it and figure out what I need to do to help myself. And what you were going through initially was grief. Like you said, you were sitting around. That's the depression part. That's the other part of grief that we haven't really talked about too much, is the sadness behind all of your life changing so instantly and sporadically, and figuring out how to even process those feelings.
So
yeah,
listening to his
when I lost my
story,
husband, I was
go
sorry.
ahead, Mike.
When I was just going to say, when I lost my husband, John, I'd do the same thing. I'd get up every morning, and I took a lot of time off work as well after I lost him. So I found myself not even wanting to go out the house back then. So when I was starting to get these feelings when I got diagnosed with PAD, and it was one of them, I've been there, I've done that. This is what I need to do now to bring myself back out of this again. So
In listening to his story, did you hear the 5 stages of grief, or the 5 stages that y'all talk about? Did you hear? And can you possibly give us the 5 stages that you talk about and a little synopsis of each stage?
Mhm.
Absolutely. I heard a few of them. I'm sure if we listened long enough, we would hear them all. But first of all, thank you, Mike, for sharing your story, and what amazing encouragement to hear how far you've come. And I do want to say this before I get into those stages. What you were dealing with was what you were dealing with is what we call compound grief. And that's where you already have something that you are grieving, and then you have something else that you are now grieving. And it also works the same with trauma, compound trauma. Once you're in a place where you're already dealing with something, and then you get another crisis. And there's something to be said about that, because a lot of people don't take that into consideration, the fact that they're already dealing with something and how it has literally taken the capacity to be able to deal with this new issue. So I'm glad that you had the courage and the strength to get through that. But as LaNae said, you had to be patient with yourself in order to get to where you are. So it's all about you creating that space for your healing, but not just jumping straight into it. But going into the grief stages come from Elizabeth Kubler-Ross's 5 stages of grief, and they're denial, anger, bargaining, depression, and I can type them in the chat if you need, and acceptance. And denial is, pretty much what it sounds like. You know that this is the truth, but you choose to go on and behave as though it doesn't exist. And I'm going to try to reframe or frame these in the sense of having a chronic illness. Denial is when you know that you have, for instance, you have diabetes, for instance, and you go and eat and drink the things that you know could spike your A1C, and you choose to just ignore it. Oh, I'll deal with it when I get to it, or I'll take more insulin that day, or I'll do this or that. That's denial. Denial is not just a mental process, it does involve behavior as well. Anger is, of course, what it sounds like: the frustration, the irritation, the agitation. Maybe your relationships are strained because now you are kind of snapping at the people that love you or support you because you're angry within. So it projects outward. It can be, a lot of times the anger is reflected back unto self. People have self anger. They develop self loathe where they're unable to like themselves in this state. They're unable to like themselves um, at this version of themselves. So they develop anger towards themselves and everybody else. And these are natural feelings, people. Like, I want people to understand that these are natural human emotions, and the judgment of it all is what makes it so hard. So when you take the judgment out of it and you give yourself space to feel, then it's easier to accept. Bargaining is, well, maybe it wasn't that. Maybe I don't have PAD. Maybe it's something else. It's okay to get a second, even a third opinion, but when you start getting into sixth, seventh, eighth, ninth opinions, and you're just not wanting to accept that this is the case, that's bargaining. Maybe it's something else. Maybe, and it also goes into, maybe if I had done this differently, I wouldn't be here. Or maybe if I had chose different things or made different decisions, I wouldn't have this. So bargaining can be a bit complex, but it's basically taking the reality and trying to gamble with it in a sense, even though it has not changed. Depression, as we went through before, involves the lack of motivation, the lack of thrive, the lack of morale. You don't have the motivation to do daily living activities. You don't have the motivation to do your daily walks. You don't want to take a bath. You don't want to eat. You don't want to talk to your friends and family. You're shut down. This can go and unfortunately develop into suicidal ideations as well. That's one of the most severe levels of depression. And we deal with that a lot with chronic illness also, because people end up losing hope. And that's part of, the process. And we like to be patient with, patients and clients through that, because it's a very real part of dealing with a chronic illness. And of course, the other stage is acceptance. And we discussed that as well, being able to get to a place where you're able to say, you know what, this is my reality. I hate it. It sucks. However, this is how I'm going to choose to cope with it and heal, on a mental health level or in any way that I can around it to make it just a little bit easier. And I think lastly, that it's important to remind everyone that these stages bounce around. They are not linear. You will not arrive. You will bounce from, you will get, one day you may be like, okay, I accept this, everything is great. And the next day you're at the bottom of the ocean in depression.
Yeah,
That
you
is
can go
part of
through the
grief. That's
cycle.
how
So
it works.
it's not that you
Mhm.
finish. So once you've moved through the cycle, you're there. Unfortunately, that with a chronic illness, but even with the loss of a loved one as well, sometimes you have to go through that process again, and it just is what it is, and accept, okay, I need to go through this process because that's where I'm at, and I need to do it if I want to move forward and I want to continue to thrive.
And Marius, you said something that as a counselor, we talked about the compound part of this. So I'm diagnosed with PAD, but I still have a life. Things still are going to happen. So I lost my mom. I lost my sister. My house burnt down, 2 bypasses, open heart surgery, and that's all in 5 years. And think about people in the group and all the things that we're diagnosed with PAD, but we have to live with every day because life still goes on, doesn't it?
Yeah. And that's that's the importance of, having a community like you guys have created, and having, an outlet like having a counselor and those things, because life does happen and it's really hard to process this one thing when there's 10,000 other things happening at the same time. And sometimes we want to process it all at one time, but it's not that easy. Sometimes we do need to break it down and look at, okay, which is the thing that's pressing me the most at this moment? How can I work through that? Okay, now let's look at something else, organizing our thoughts in a way that they feel manageable. Because when things do come at you a whole bunch at one time, it makes it feel overwhelming, and it makes it feel like we can't have any control of it because it's so much at one time. But being able to have an outlet, being able to have a community to kind of help support you through those things is so imperative, especially when just even with just everyday life, but when you have major things happening, it's really, really important to have your own person to kind of, or community to go to. Because I think me and Kym and Marius talked about, sometimes our family is not always our safe space to talk about the things, because they have their feelings about what we're going through. And sometimes we don't need that. Sometimes we need our own space to talk about our own feelings without having other people's feelings involved. But we know they care about us and it's with good intention, but it doesn't always give you the opportunity to kind of really let out and go through the things that you're feeling, because naturally they have their feelings about what's happening as well. Because when we do have families that are involved, it impacts everybody. And
And
sometimes
think
we need
about,
our, oh, go ahead, I'm sorry.
no, go ahead, finish.
Oh, I was just going to say, it's important that we have our own space to process our things. Um, because and the family also has their own space to process their things, because it does impact them. It's just being able to have the support in both avenues, because it's a process. And like he said, it's not linear, and we're going to go through ups and downs, and when we need support throughout the whole experience.
And I
And we
think that
hit, go
it's
ahead.
important though that
Sorry.
it's not a situation. There are a lot of groups out there that are all about misery loves company. And I was very careful. I still am very careful, because I think there's a balance in allowing people to vent and share. And then it becomes this vicious cycle versus actually, reaching people where they are and then being that light for them when they're ready. I was always told by my coach, it's okay to be in your own little poopy corner with your own little poopy face and be in your own little poopy mood, but the key to that is allow yourself to be where you are, allow yourself to vent, but you need to have in the back of of your mind how you prefer to feel. And she always said, if you have in the back of your mind how you prefer to feel, and what is going to make you feel that, if it's, for me at the time it was going to get my macadamia nut milk vanilla latte, and so if I was in a mood, I was always going to go and get that. But
Will.
that's really important, so you don't end up in this vicious cycle with people, um literally just driving you further. I mean, telling you what you want to hear, which is, oh, poor you, poor you, poor you. And then it's continuing to go through your mind, poor you, versus people saying, hey, it's okay to feel where you are. I know you prefer to feel better, and I'm here to be your light and ready for you when you want to chat and you want to come out of it, because I know you can.
And a
Exactly.
part of our group is being able to talk to somebody who understands when I make the comment, I can't walk to the end of the driveway, because my family or my friends will go, what are you talking about? What
Yeah.
I don't understand what you're saying. My feet are cold when I lay in bed. Well, put socks on. Goodness gracious, just put socks on and warm up your feet. You don't understand. So it's hard to explain to somebody why I can't walk or how I feel when they haven't experienced, or they. So it is that a disconnect.
Yeah, yeah, and I'm sure it gets exhausting. Like, it gets exhausting constantly have to explain why I'm going through this and why I feel this way and why I'm doing these things, in the way that I'm doing, and then you start to feel more guilt or more, inadequacy, because they don't understand. And that causes more stress, and like Kym was saying, it kind of pulls you back down to a place that's not always healthy. Yeah.
But when it comes to family, one of the things that is really important to understand is that when they see you going through something, and my mom's transitioned, but I just know from experience that when she was feeling pain, or like when my dad was experiencing pain, you end up almost not giving them the love that they need because you have your own coping mechanism to pull back because you can't solve their problem. And it hurts you so, like, almost to the point of physically it hurts you. Um, when you can't make them feel better, because the last thing you want to see is someone you love in deep pain, both emotionally and physically, and you can't do anything about it.
Yeah.
And that's hard for not only that person, but also the patient that's going, the one that's diagnosed, going, hello, I'm the one going through it. Like, what are you doing? You're fine. Suck it up, buttercup. I mean, what in the world? Just need a hug,
Yeah.
right? I
Yeah.
just need a hug, but they can't give it to you, and they start distancing themselves. And it's not because they don't love you, it's just because they love you so much they don't know how to process it themselves. Can you speak to that, and how family members who are listening in can better cope with that? And maybe there are some things that patients can do who have these diagnoses, to also, as if they don't have enough on their plate, right, to help their family um, cope with it so that they don't distance themselves. Just want to mention really quick, as you think about that, we have Elizabeth on there. Oh, no, we have, who just posted on there? There we are,
Jordy
Francine. Oh, there was
also.
Francine. Thank you all. This is a good listening for people like me. That's true. The anger is all about it. And then what'd you say about Jordy? Oh, can Jordy ask a question? Yes, of
Yeah.
course.
Yes.
Can you hold on one second? Let them address this, and then we'll get Jordy in right after.
Okay. And
Definitely. Oh, go
oh,
ahead. Go ahead.
okay. That's why I said the family needs their own support too, because your feelings are valid as well. The family is entitled to having their feelings and their experience as well. It's a system. A family unit is a system, and if one is not okay, then it subsequently impacts everybody else. So you're not wrong with for how you feel as a family member who is feeling upset or worried or frustrated or angry because maybe, they're not taking care of themselves and they're not doing the thing. It's okay for you to have those feelings. And it's okay to not know how to show up, because there's a reason there's counselors. Like, and there's a reason counselors can't be counselors to their family, because we have our feelings. You can't be non-biased when you love somebody, like you really love and care for somebody, and you
Yeah.
see them every day. You can't be non-biased. It's just impossible, even if you try your hardest. So, finding ways to get your own support, talking to, having a group with other family members who have a family member experiencing the same thing, having your own counselor can definitely be important, or even going to counseling together. It's
Together.
okay to go, even if you have your own counselor and you're like, hey, can mom, can you come? Or if you had your own counselor, you were like, mom, can you come to counseling with me? I just some things I need to say, and I need to say it in a safe space where somebody can help me communicate. Or if mom had the same thing and wanted you to come, it's okay to have those moments to figure out how to communicate to each other, because it is a new normal for the family dynamic as well.
Excellent. Mike, go ahead. Let
Speaking
Jordy
of,
ask
we
his
have a
question.
family member.
Yes.
Jordy is a family member.
Oh, hi, Jordy.
Yeah, so after this is Geordie.
Hi, everybody.
Hi, Jordy. We love
My
Jordy.
question is, are there, I jump in right at the appropriate time with family, but my question is actually when a person is having, the down day where they don't, you know, they may be physically able to do what needs to be done, but they're mentally exhausted and mentally just down. Are there methods or tips or tricks that they can use to, you know, get the, pull themselves up a little bit in order to do the physical things that need to be done. I mean, like when I get all angry on the road, I remind myself I don't look good in stripes, so you know I don't kill anybody. You know, are there?
I love you.
Are the you know like meditation, deep breathing, anything like that that you can suggest? I'll shut up now.
Oh, it's a great
No,
question.
absolutely.
And it's even from the
Absolutely.
patient's perspective, but also from a caregiver, you know, a family member, a friend's perspective and what they can do. Can you talk about from both perspectives?
Absolutely. So, you know, I think it's important to first, like we're doing now, identify that both the patient and the caretaker need support. So, like LaNae was saying earlier, making sure that if the caretaker needs a counselor, that they get one too. And if family counseling needs to be something to, you know, initiate, then going that route as well. But you know, on the outside of that, Jordy, you have a point in asking these questions because counseling is one thing, but what happens when you leave the counselor's office or you click off of the video chat and you have to cope outside of talking to someone? So, yeah, that's where you have your mindfulness activities, and meditation is one of those things. Mindfulness is simply the art of existing in the here and now. It gives you an opportunity to slow down the madness and to just exist in the here and now. You stop worrying about the past and being afraid of the future, and you place yourself and ground yourself in the present. And you do that by things such as meditation, guided meditation. If your mind is racing too much, a guided meditation may be more
Yep.
helpful. Going outside into nature, getting away from that traffic. We live in Atlanta, Georgia, so we have one of the worst traffic rates outside of probably where Kym is in the country. So, you know,
Yeah.
getting away from traffic, getting away from the hustle and bustle, and going to a place in nature that kind of restores your peace. That's good. Doing visualizations in your meditation, you know, describing, visualizing a place that is safe for you, whether it's the beach or whether it's the mountains, even if you can't get to it, using visualizations in your meditations to create a safe space is a great way to be mindful. Doing grounding activities like counting the steps that you're walking for a certain amount of time, or paying attention to the things that you see, the things you
Yeah.
hear, the things you can smell, using your five senses to identify things around you. It seems silly, but it grounds you in the present and it tunes out all of the stress from beyond. So starting to practice things like that could be helpful for not only the person dealing with PAD, but the person who is, you know, giving the care as well. And I think it's important to also note that separating the care is okay. If you need time and space to yourself to kind of, you know, just chill and zen for a moment, just you, it's okay. You know, and that goes for both of you all. If you just need time to yourself, being able to be honest with yourself and your loved one, that's going to be important as well. And that's when we get into the healthy communication styles. That's another story though.
And you know, in recovery, we have Al-Anon, right?
Yep.
So, and in recovery, we have to remember that if the addict's getting help and the family member's not, the family members usually have to catch up because the addict is getting help and learning and processing.
Mhm.
If the family member's not able to do that, they're falling behind. And so between Mike and Jordy, y'all have to work that together so you stay on the same plane. At least Mike's not up here and you're down here, and that's why maybe we need to create a PAD Al-Anon and have a safe place for family members to talk and share.
Yeah.
I
And
did 5
I
years in Al-Anon, Doug.
oh, so you get it.
I got it. I 100% got it. I have my daily book as well.
And we remember this. So in recovery, and I see this in some of the groups with some of the family members, I hear it, is that the family member tends, so in the addict, in the addiction, the family member is always left behind catching up or repairing all the damage that the addict done. So they feel left out a lot. So if I'm going to the doctor and I'm getting help, but my significant other is not, where do they get that from then? Now they're going to be a little more jealous because I'm getting help. I feel great now, but well, what about me?
Yeah, exactly.
Mm.
It's always hard when, the person themselves feels like, okay, they get to acceptance, but then their family members can't. And that is a problem. Like, oh my gosh, my mom, my dad can no longer keep up with me. Oh my goodness, this is just, and then they get angry. So they're going through that grief and they end up snapping at the patient going, come on, I just can't figure this out. Why can't you keep up? Oh, I don't want to take you with me because you're just too slow and I want to get this done. And then it drives the poor patient back into that vicious cycle of grief again. And that's an important conversation to have. And that's where I always say, and I agree with you guys, and I think that really the moral of the story is, with any diagnosis, it's really important. The first thing you should say to your doctor is, I need a referral to a counselor. I need not only a referral for me, but I need to make sure I can bring a family member or a friend with me or all of the above so that we can work through this together. I wish it was part of every diagnosis at a certain point that would be considered a chronic illness, because I think with this just transcends across every single ailment.
Yeah.
And is that something
Absolutely.
you're fighting to do over there in Georgia? I think that that's something we talked about as well, that you're looking to work with some of the congressional team to try and get something in place that might be a landmark piece of legislation to say, you know what, this needs to be covered. There needs to be not just 1, 2, or 3 sessions. This needs to be something that there is an initial set of sessions, but it needs to be ongoing because, 6, 12 months down the road, as your diagnosis, maybe your prognosis changes, whatever, you may need to go back. And it's only fair that medical coverage would include that.
Yeah, definitely, definitely. Like we said about the stages of grief, they bounce around. When you get to the point of acceptance, you go to the doctor again, and then now you're back going through a circle of feelings and things that are hard to process on your own. So being able to have someone who has walked the journey with you, and knows what's going on and knows where you were, it's really imperative to holistic health, like Doug said in the beginning, getting your mind right and taking care of your physical health, your mental health, and all of those things matter when you're healing from something, even if it's a physical condition. If we're taking care of ourselves mentally, it will help our physical progression,
Yeah.
us navigate through our physical progression.
And Kim got that right, because here how generally how it works. So I go to the doctor. Douglas, you have P.A.D. Walk, walk, walk. I'll see you in 6 months. So I walk out of the hospital or the OR or wherever. And nowadays, the first thing I do is go to Dr. Google. And that's where I get my information from. And it's like, why can't the doctor take, unfortunately it doesn't happen, but then yeah, I'm left to my own accord with Dr. Google, knowing that I'm driving home, it says I'm gonna die in 5 years. It's like, hello.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
And
I
that's
do want to
how.
address a couple of serious comments that just have come in really quickly. One from Francine on YouTube, that she has a second cousin that has this. It is something that's hereditary. PAD is hereditary. Atherosclerosis is hereditary. You see it a lot in families. And for Skrieg EG, I think that's the screen name, has multiple aneurysms, surgeries. Last month had a stent, left leg from groin to knee. We have surgery we'll have surgery in January with the left ankle, new severe pain, right knee, should I go to the hospital? If you think you have signs of a blood clot that is developed with tenderness and pain in one particular spot, you do need to get that checked out. It's not something that you want to mess with. As if it's not a medical emergency and you feel like it's not a medical emergency right now, you can always call our Leg Saver hotline up here, and we can talk you through. And if you do go to the hospital, you can always call the hotline from there, and we can help you navigate the system and be with you to advocate for you in the hospital. But if you think it's a blood clot, it's not something to mess with. And as you can see, LaNae and Marius, I mean, this peripheral artery disease, when it comes to the human superhighways, whether arteries or veins, is pretty serious, and there's a lot of fear. And you go onto Dr. Google and your fear gets even worse. And there's always that feeling with every twinge or every bruise or whatever. We had someone yesterday that had some unexplained bruising and tenderness in the thigh, and it was like, well, the only thing you can do is go to the emergency room. But it just feels like it's just this never ending process that is driven by fear, because most of the time it's just the fear. It's not anything. But without being able to see the doctor and talk to the doctor, when you need them, and the delays, like we have Marie, I think, who is, nope, she left already. It's just constant delays in care. Um, and they just leave you home in pain to feel these things. And the more you're sitting without a doctor giving you the lowdown, the more fearful you get, and the more twinges that you feel that want to drive you to the ER.
Yeah, and that's kind of what Marius was saying about anxiety, how that can resemble a heart attack, because we've got all these worries and fears, and now we're the vet. I mean, the internet is great, but in this case is not, because we all do it. We all get on the internet and try to figure out what's going on with us. Like, it's just, we get anxious. We want to know what's happening right now. But it kind of circles back to what Marius was saying, what about mindfulness and just being in the present moment is going to help you navigate through those feelings. Like, all right, this is what I know right now. I'm not sure what tomorrow looks like. What I know right now is X, Y, and Z. What
Yeah.
do I need to do to help myself, knowing that this is what X, Y, and Z is in this moment? Because if we get lost in what you may find out tomorrow or what the test results may be, that's what's going to increase the anxiety. That's what's going to increase the worry. That's what's going to increase the intrusive negative thoughts and those things. But if we allow ourselves just to be present and in the moment, it'll help us subside all of what that other stuff
Yeah.
comes with.
And you pull up P.A.D. on the internet, you get 228,000 hits, and the first three are "I'm gonna die in 5 years."
Yeah.
What did I miss along the line?
Mhm.
And without the help, and what we can offer for each other is the understanding of each other, and knowing that, I'm not going to die in 5 years,
Yep.
and I can
So
Absolutely. And I
figure
true.
this
think
out.
also,
Go ahead.
I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, go
Well,
ahead.
something popped in my head
Yeah.
about what Kym brought up at breakfast, and she was talking about collaborative care and having a relationship between the medical doctor and the mental health practitioner,
Yep.
to not only assist with the collaboration of treatment, but also to help educate the other professionals that are helping you, your village. And like I told Kym, and like LaNae always hears from me, I have an analogy for support systems. It's the pie or the pizza. Every slice is different. You have your spiritual piece, your family piece, your social, your work, your medical, your mental health. And though your friend may be able to give some good advice, they can't be your counselor. Though your pastor or whatnot may be able to give some good encouragement, they can't be your best friend, or sometimes they are. But, these slices can't overtake the other. They can't slip into the role that they're not meant to slip into. So when it comes to getting that support, as far as medical care and mental health care, collaborating to give the other practitioners the information they need to be supportive to you is helpful, not so we can be your doctor, but so that we can have information that helps us understand what you're going through so we can be more supportive, because we don't have to be experts to know how to validate. All we need is a little bit of information in a certain area, and then we can kind of shape our empathy and our compassion around that. And that goes into what we learn as part of our ethics is, multicultural competence, being able to go into these different areas where we may not be familiar and doing our due diligence to research, to understand, to listen, to go and speak to, get these releases of information to speak to the doctor to say, okay, well, you know, what is this and how they mentioned this is a medical condition they deal with. How does that affect their functioning, here or there? The medications can affect your functioning as well. So if you have a psychiatrist, being able to loop them into that collaboration can help as well. So now you have a collaborative care team and you're able to have, that support all around where everyone's not stepping on everyone's toes, if that makes sense.
Yeah, that was absolutely brilliant. And it would be so easy for you guys if you knew, okay, this patient has been diagnosed with PAD. I know it comes with a lot of pain in the legs, but we got to get this person to accept this and get motivated to walk, because walking's the best medicine and they're going to feel pain when they walk. And so it gives you the opportunity to go, okay, I understand what this disease is, and I know that this person needs to get where they need to be, which is walking is medicine. So I agree that that synergy is so important, and I would love to see more of that going forward. And we have Franny again. My right iliac is getting clogged. My left and my abdominal is still good. Aorta. What am I doing wrong? Stents, sorry, didn't explain. So with Franny, so see what they don't have the time with the doctor, and the doctors don't sit and have more, and it's not their fault. I mean, they're just packed with patients in advanced stage PAD. And Franny, walking is the best medicine. If you have wounds on your feet that are not healing and you have rest pain that's waking you up at night, those Charlie horses that just you jump out of your bed out of a sound sleep, well, you need to talk to your doctor and get that expedited. Or I would say also get a second opinion. And this goes for not only Franny, but also for Skrieg EG as well, the screen name. Always get a second and third opinion. Getting to, as Marius says, a sixth, seventh, eighth opinion, that could be a lot. But I think that if you're working with PAD and working with us, we can help you determine the criteria that you should be using for your presentation of disease and the questions you can ask to make sure that you feel that you have found the most advanced right fit for your situation. Someone who may have more time than another person to sit and explain things to you as well. That conversation, that relationship, especially if you have a chronic illness, that relationship with your doctor is so incredible. And so while you might have a doctor and say, oh my gosh, their bedside manner sucks, but they're the best doctor, they're the best plumber in the world. Well, that's great, but what is that going to do for your emotional well-being long term, right? What are you going to do when you go home and that doctor just was like, just trust me, I just did what I needed to do, go home and walk and you'll be fine. That's not going to help. So if you do have one of those doctors, make sure they have a great PA or nurse practitioner that will sit with you and spend the time. But you need someone that will take the time to build that relationship and ease your fears, right?
Yes,
And if
definitely.
not, tell them to refer you to a counselor and tell them they need to talk to that counselor about your diagnosis, sign the consent, give the permission. And so that counselor has an idea of what they're getting into before you have your first consult.
That's why I think we're really grateful and blessed to have this Wednesday night group that we have a chance to share with each other. Because my whole deal is being able to accept the fact we're getting taken care of physically, but we cannot forget about the emotional and the psychological and the mental health side, and how if we can work on those things and get to the point where you're talking about it affects our physical and so we just can't do one without the other, because we need to be whole.
Yes.
And I want to, because we're running over time here. I want to give LaNae and Marius a chance to give their final thoughts. And if anyone in the chat wants to give their final thoughts as well, I will give you the platform.
Okay. Well, I would just say, just continue to give yourself grace when you go through things. Like Maria said, trying not to be judgmental of your feelings, because it's okay that you have them. And seeking support when you're having a hard time navigating through the feelings. I had a professor who said, never shit on yourself. And that's been something I've carried forever, because we do that. I should be able
Yeah.
to do this and I should be able to do that. Stop finding ways to limit that with ourselves, because what that creates is guilt and feelings of inadequacy, and finding ways to create positive affirmations for yourself on those days that it is a little bit harder. Writing down things that I am capable, I am strong enough, I can do it. Those things, when our minds are ruminating on the I can't, having something to look at and see that says that we can, when we can't formulate those thoughts on our own, will be definitely very helpful. And just reaching out for support when you find yourself having a difficult time navigating through the thoughts and the feelings and processing what you're going through, because it's not easy. It's not easy. And being okay with, and giving yourself permission to have the feelings and to seek the support, and know that you're not alone, because there is communities and there are people who are out here that want to support you and help you through the journey that you're on.
Yeah.
And I agree. And of course, I'm going to piggyback off of not only what LaNae said, but what Kym said about finding the right practitioner. I want to empower you all to remember that your healthcare is in your control. A lot of times when it comes to chronic illness, you feel trapped with the doctor that you have, and they may not be giving you the right care. They may not be giving you the compassion or the paying attention to what your needs are. So it's okay to find someone who you feel comfortable with. And the same goes with mental health. If you feel like something is not clicking or it's not connecting, they're not giving you the support you need, always, search till you find the right fit, because that gives you power over your health care. It doesn't control you, you are in control. So always remember to be empowered to seek out the support that wants to support you, because they're out there. There are people out there that do have genuine compassion, genuine empathy towards these matters, and they're ready to help. So that, and also I just wanted to say one last thing about mindfulness. Keep in mind that whenever you are wanting to cope and you're trying to find peace, it doesn't have to be a big grand gesture. If you catch the sunrise in the window, be mindful in that. If you catch a moment where the rain is raining and the thunder is thundering and it's peaceful and it just creates a vibe, take out all of the other thoughts and live in that moment. Those little moments help to create and build the morale again. So I just want to empower you all to take yourself, take it slowly, be patient, and give yourself the space that you need to heal through the things that you go through.
Thank you so much to LaNae
Absolutely.
and Marius. We really appreciate you. To learn more about their organization, go to ourhealingspace.org, ourhealingspace.org. They are in Atlanta, Georgia, and I just absolutely adore them. I hope that you will come back and we can make this somewhat regular, because I think you're amazing. I think we'll have a new set of people that join all the time, that want to learn and want to grow. Might have a few times, we're repeating things, but I think repetition is, makes it habit. So we would love to have you back. We appreciate you. Again, Make sure all of you like the video, subscribe to our channel, and click the little notification button for more great content like this. And don't forget to call the Leg Saver Hotline if you have any questions or concerns about your symptoms for PAD. That's 1-833-PAD legs. Thanks everyone for joining us.
Thank y'all.
Thanks, guys.
Thank
Thank you.
you.
And hi, Frank.